Hi everyone. You all hear me?
Hi, yes.
Yes.
Right. So let's get started. Just a moment. Okay, so let's get started. Right. So now please launch the different notebooks. Right. So yesterday, what we had done was we were talking about the strings, right? How we can create the strings, and we talked about that how the strings are immutable. I know this is something very important, I would say the aspect where basically a lot of questions are asked in the interviews as well. Like, what do you mean by immutable? Because we will see that there are certain objects which are immutable and which are mutable, right? So on those areas, a lot of questions are asked in the interviews when you go over there. So next thing that we're going to now explore is basically methods. So what do we mean by methods is, right? Like we have discussed formulas in Excel, we discussed certain functions in SQL, right? Like, so they are basically called as methods in, methods in the context of the Python language. And, there is something like OOPS concept. So OOP, basically OOP stands for object-oriented programming, right? So in object-oriented programming, what happens basically different type of elements are treated as object, and for each object there are different type of methods and functions that can be created, right? So like the languages which follow the OOPS concept are your C++, right? Now these are some languages which are based on the concept of OOPS programming, and Python also follows the same. So now over here, so as I mentioned, so basically we can use methods, and methods are nothing but they are like the built-in functions, right? The built-in functions that you have uh, on the particular different type of objects that we will be exploring over here. So like for example, if I create a string over here, right? So I'm saying uh, string s equals to everyone. Now, if you want to apply a method on this, you can say s dot upper, right? So upper is like a method. So as itself, you will always be able to understand upper wherever we have used. Upper means to convert something into uppercase. So the entire data gets converted into uppercase over here. right? Similarly, if you say s dot lower, so it converts each and everything into a lowercase. Okay. You want to split something, so you have s dot, right? If I say split, you can also press tab, right? When you press tab, so what will happen is you will get the different functions with the same name, right? You say split over here. So now if you run this, it is going to give you two different words over here. It splits the word into hello and everyone. Now this basically output is called as a list, which we will just be discussing in a little while. Okay, and if suppose you now by default, what happen is in this split default space is a delimiter, and if you want to split by some other text, what you can simply do is you can say s dot split. I suppose you want to split by a particular character, right? You want to split by L. So if you run this now, so wherever that L is coming up, the data is getting split up based on that. The next thing that we're going to discuss over here is that is basically lists. Okay. So in the list, what we do over here is we are going to do and assign basically what first we understand what a list is. So list is basically a way, it's an object that can store sequence of data, right? Suppose you want to say, suppose store some names, right? Student names. You want to store multiple names now. So you can say that you want to say the name as Sam, Eric, Thomas. So you want to say multiple names, like we had something like in R, we had something like vectors over there. Similarly, you have series over here in this. So if you run this now, you will be able to see that you get the student names and it has stored those all four values over here. So always remember when you have to create a list, it is something that will be starting in this, it will be given in the square brackets. So brackets will be important over here because different type of brackets will be used for different type of objects now. So when you use square brackets, that means you are creating a list over here. A list can have data of multiple types. You want to create a list too, so you can say, right, if you want to store A, so in the list you can store the data of multiple times. So now the indexing and slicing that we understood on strings, right? So that slicing and indexing works over here as well. Okay, so slicing and indexing works over here as well. I'm sure like you all will be now feeling really comfortable, right? Like since you've already done these kind of things on in the R as well, right? So they should not be like completely new, because if I understand, many of you might would be from uh, a very limited coding, the background, or uh, might have not done any coding as well. Right? So in this data science, the good thing is like any programming language that you will pick, they have a similar kind of a technique. So slicing and the indexing also works the same way, like we learned on the strings now, right? Suppose if this is a string, the student names, right? So if you create this, if I say you have to pull the name of Sam, so what I will do in that case is I'm going to say student names, and I'll give the index number that is 0, right? So if I say 1, so it gives me the name at the first index position. Suppose if I have to pick the first 3 names, right? These ones. So how I'm going to do that? I'm going to say student names, right? So up to 0, 1 to 3. Right? So if I say up to 3, so it gives me Sam Alvin Thomas. If you want to add a new item into a list that you have, you can do it by simply using a plus sign. So basically, if you see right now, so we have student names. If you want to add a new student in this, suppose student is Rose, and if you run this, so right now you don't get the item. This that was this is. Let's go back to right. So you will see the element has been added inside this the list, and I can see the concatenated output over here, right? But this change is not permanent, right? Because this is just for the output purpose. If you will check the student names right now, it still has those 4 values. But if you want to add the values permanently, so you will have to overwrite, right? Reassignment of the variable has to be done. So you will say student names is equals to student names plus rows. right? Now, similarly, like we have the methods, we saw the methods on the string, you have the methods on the list as well. You come over here, so you can use, right? I suppose I have the student names. So we have a method on this that we can always use, that is student dot names. So if you write dot, there is a method dot. So if you want to see the complete list of the methods, you can just press tab key. Right after writing a dot, press a tab key. You will be able to see the different type of methods that can be applied on this. So these are the methods of list now. So you say append. Append means to add an item. Suppose I write something like Julie, right? So now if you will see in the student dot names, the Julie has now been appended. Now that's a permanent change that you will see. Then you have something like pop, right? This is used to remove an element. Like for example, if you come over here, I say student dot names, and if you say dot pop, so by default it will remove the last element, right? So Julie has been removed. So technically, it shows you the element also that has been removed, and by default it will be the last. You see now this is gone from here. But if you want to remove a particular value at an index number, so you can give the index number inside the box. So now if we move forward on this, we have a method like you can use student non names dot reverse. So what that reverse will do, it will just print the list in the reverse order. Now it will reverse that list. So if you check this now, you see that this list has been reversed now.
Is this permanent, that reverse list?
Sorry?
If we use the reverse, is it permanent, that list?
Permanent, yes.
Okay.
Now, similarly, if you have the methods that you can use, which is like sort, right? So you can use sort as well if you want to try that out. Sort is going to sort the data for you. Right. So you can see the names are now coming in a sorted way. And by default, you know what happened is, by default, if you see, the sorting is, by default, the sorting is ascending. If you want the descending, so how will you do it? The sorting has to be done in the descending order. So how can we achieve this? So basically, if you see, we can use the reverse, right? So if technically, if you see the sorting that you have, right? If I just come over here, st underscore names, and we dot reverse it. So if you reverse this over here, so that becomes a descending order now, right? So now this becomes a descending order. So this is the same thing that we apply in the sort function as well, right? So if you come over here, we say st underscore names, and in this, while applying that sort, right? So what you can do over there is you can use a function, just an option or a parameter inside it, where you can say reverse equals to true, right? So this will make the sorting in the descending, where by default is sorry, this is not true, this is this by default is like it's false. When mentioning the sorting becomes descending. Now, similarly, you have some more methods that you can always use, right? You have a count in this, right? Now, count is a method which can return the number of elements with the specified, it's like with the specified value, it is going to give you that output over there, right? So, like for example, if you create this, in this, let me do one thing, just add one more same name, student dot, student underscore names dot append. Let's add Jack one more time on this, right? So now if I say over here that student dot underscore names dot count, and you can give that name, right? You want to see how many number of times that Jack is found, right? So it tells you twice that Jack is present in your list two of the times. Now, when you work with the lists, right? So lists can be nested as well. We can create nested lists. So what happens over here is in this nested list means a list within a list. Okay, so for example, if I have to store, I have multiple lists with me. I have list one, in which I am storing suppose 1, 2, 3. I have list two, in which I am storing suppose 4, 5, 6. I have list three, which I am storing 7, 8, 9. If I come up over here, so I am now having three lists with me. If you want to create a list, full list, or I can say nested list. Nested list means you can have a list within the list. So that is suppose I'm storing list one, list two, list three, right? So if you will take a look at it, we have stored the list within a list as an asset. Okay. So please try to write a code, right? If I want to extract 8 from here. So how can I extract that 8 from this nested list? Yep. Anyone? Yep. So right, Lakshmi. So basically, this is how we will do it. So if you see over here, so first we pull the first list in this, right? So if you now write over here, nested list, right? So if you go in this now, if I say 0, right? So it is going to give me the first list, right? So if same way, if I write nested list 1, so it is going to give me the second list, right? From this list also, I want to probably we want the 8 over here. So in that case, what I do over here is I'm going to say nested list, that is 2, right? And in this also, I want to pick the element number 1. So I write 1 in this. So that gives me 8 over here. So now the next uh, the object that we will discuss over here is that is dictionaries. Okay, so we have another way over the part that we will discuss, that is dictionaries. So now when we talk about this list over here, right, the Python list that we were discussing right now in this. So lists are basically they are like ordered lists are ordered pair of values, right? So what do we what that what do I mean by order is that every item has a defined order in it, right? The elements are coming at index number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there is something sort of an indexing that they follow, right? And the order of the sequence will not change, right? If you try to add a new element, so it will be added in the last itself, right? So that sequence does not change now. But when it comes to dictionaries now, right? So when we talk of these dictionaries over here, so they are more like, in terms of the sequencing, that means they are more like called as unordered, the sequence of values that we store now, right? So I will not say unordered also, but I can probably say dictionary items are ordered, right? And they are changeable, right? Basically, what happens is in the list, we cannot change the values. And plus, the dictionaries are something that do not allow duplicates. They do not allow duplicates. And also, like in this dictionary, what we will be seeing over here is the idea is that we do not store the values of the items with their some we do not store the items with the not store the item with the context of this the index number over here. Probably we will be using some key value pairs over here, right? So dictionaries are key value pairs, right? Which we use to identify or store the data. So let us see how do we use these dictionaries now. So dictionary when we create, so suppose I create the first dictionary. So I'm just reading a dictionary over here. So in the dictionary we use curly brackets, right? Like in the list we were using square brackets. So in the dictionaries we use curly brackets. You define a key and a value, right? You will say key value, and what do you want to store in that? You will put the value over here, right? Similarly, you have another key2, and you will store the value for that. Now this is a format that you follow, right? This is a format that I'm talking over here right now. So if you will see, like if you want to store some values in it, so you will store something like this, right? Suppose let's create my dictionary one, right? And I'm saying student one, right? Student one, his name is Sam, right? You put a comma. Student two, his name is Eric. Right? Student three, his name is Jack. Okay, so this is how we store the data in that way, right? So if you will now see my dictionary one, you will be able to see the values, right? Student one is Sam, student two is Eric, student three is Jack. So Deepa, I'm not clear on your question. In which scenario you pull a data or list item from backward direction?
Yeah, yesterday you were explaining about the backward directions we can go by giving the values as negative indexes. Will that work in list and dictionary? My question here is, do we need to go that in real time, or in which scenario we use that by going in the backward direction in list or?
No, this is not all. This is just like the techniques that we should be knowing now. This is
Okay.
like just the basic concepts that how the things are indexed. If you want to pull a value at the first position, second position, that's just a concept over here.
Okay.
Now, like practical side is more like you're working on the data and you want to pull something from the very last. So either you will say that, okay, let me find its index number, or you will simply say let me use the minus sign and pull the data from there.
Okay.
Now you see over here, this dictionary if you create it. And the dictionary, what we do is we don't use the indexing over here. If you have to pull any value, so this dictionary that you have created, suppose if you want to pull the value and you want to pull something for student one, so you will just give that key over here, right? I will say my dictionary 1, and from there I want to pull the data of student 1. So we'll build you SAM. So when you create dictionaries, right? In the dictionaries, the lists can be stored. Right? So for example, if you come up over here and you are creating a dictionary now, so you can store complete the list also if you want inside this, right? Suppose I'm calling it as L1, in that I'm storing 1, 2, 3, right? You have L2, in that you are storing 4, 5, 6. So you will see now this has saved that entire list inside this.
I can have mixed data types here, right? Since you said you can hold lists in dictionary.
Yes, yes.
And you said indexing won't be possible, you will be giving the keys. Then how can I pull my first and last data in dictionary? Is there any other way?
No, so you can't do that. So you have to
Okay,
put the key value in that and then you will be able to pull it.
okay.
You can also create the dictionaries by like by going like this, right? What you can do is you can create an empty dictionary. Suppose I call it as so I'm creating an empty dictionary now, right? So you can simply say something like this, that D movie equals to, suppose you say right? You say D fruit equals to apples, right? So you will now see that if you will see D, so dictionary is created. So first of all, I created an empty dictionary. Now I'm saying first key is this, value is this, key is this, value is this.
In the same manner, we can add the dictionary items, right, to the existing dictionary.
You can do that.
Okay.
So if you already have a dictionary prepared, so you can just keep adding like this.
Okay.
Now from this dictionary that you have created, right, if you want to see only the keys, which all different keys you have. So you can write d dot keys, it will give you the key values. If you say d dot values, so it shows the values over here. And if you say d dot items, it shows you the pairs. Now, similarly, we have next type of friend, even the object that we have in Python, and that is basically your tuples. Now, tuples are something which we use very less. So they are basically like the lists only, but they are immutable. Right? Immutable means you cannot change the values, right? Like for example, if you are in the list, okay, suppose I create that student name. This was the list that we had. Now in this case, suppose I realize that this name, the student's name is not Sam, it is Sammy. I can change that, right? I can simply say student names. And in this case, I will say the value that I have at the element index number 1, that is Sammy. Right? So if we will now see over here, the student names are now updated. The Sam is changed with Sammy now. Now, if you want to store something that you really do not want to change any point in time, so you can convert that thing into the form of a tuple now. So to create a tuple, what we do is we simply use round brackets, right? So if I say to give the names like Thomas, Sam, Eric, right? So now if you will see, this is a tuple that has been created. You can check that out, right? You can write type of T, this is a tuple, right? If you say type of student names, it gives you list. So you can check that out. The only difference is that this you can use the indexing over here. So if you say you want to see the value at index number 0, it gives you. But if you say that you want to replace that value, you can't do it, right? So suppose it is Tom, so you can't do that. So object does not support this assignment. So that is where we say that these are tuples now. Okay. Now finally the last the data that we have is set over here. Now set is something that we use when you want to like just see the I will say the unique data, right? You just want to store unique data only in a particular variable. So that is where we use the set now. So for example, if I say, I have, uh, I'm saying, suppose let's say x equals to set one, x equal to set. So I create a set over here, right? Now in this set, if I add an element, right? If I say x dot add, so I'm just adding one element in this, right? X is added. So if you will check x, so I have one value inside this. Okay. Now, if suppose I say I want to add 2 in this, so 2 gets added, right? So if we now check x is 1 and 2. But if I add 1 again and check the x, now it gives me only 1 and 2. So typically, right, any item you have, right, anything that you have, and you only want to store unique entries. So that is where we use the set as a function from, right? Suppose you have a list with you, right? You have a list with you in which you have 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, right? These are the values that you have. So if you say set of LST1, it gives you only the unique data from there. Okay, so the idea of using set is basically to store only the unique elements. Whatever. So this is where I think we'll take a pause for today. So tomorrow we will explore how we can do the loopings, how we can do the if conditions. So those are the kind of elements that we will be exploring in tomorrow's session. Yes, actually that can be done. So you can count the values and list in that. So we have to count the length function you can use in that. That we can do it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll on the classroom, I'll put the assignments for list and the things that we have discussed so that you can work on that. So I'll put them up.
Amit, you said you'll be showing how to change the path.
Actually for that, I'll have to just explain a little bit of the commands of the CMD, right? DIR and all those commands. So, so I'll just show you that tomorrow. Maybe I'll. Do
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Right, so otherwise, right now the shortcut technique for that is if you anytime open from here the things. So
Okay.
from here you select that folder wherever you
Folder.
want.
Okay.
First, like if you go in the downloads, and then you open this file, so automatically it will save in this part.
Okay. I mean, in the meantime, I'm just using I'm just saving all these Jupyter notebooks in desktop. If I reorganize that, right, this folder structure, will it reflect here in the notebook?
This folder structure comes from this path from the system.
Okay. Okay.
This
Okay.
is the path that you have. So downloads, folder, documents. This is all I have on my this C drive. So all those
Okay.
folders are visible over here. And in the downloads also, if you have other subfolders, so it shows you those folders as well. So this is the
Okay.
same that I have on my machine.
Okay. You'll be uploading, right, in the classroom? Okay. Okay, then thank you so much for the session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.